In 2011, a guy named Maksim Gelman was in the middle of a 28-hour rampage with an 8-inch chef's knife where he killed 4 and injured another 5 people in New York City. His rampage was finally stopped on the subway train by 40-year-old Joseph Lozito. When Gelman tried to break into the motorman's car and was pushed back by the cops who locked themselves inside the car, he ran back through the car and started directly towards Lozito, yelling, "You are going to die." Lozito was forced to counterattack. He took down Gelman with a leg sweep. Gelman then produced the 8-inch knife from under his jacket and began slashing at Lozito, who was grappling with the killer, trying to control his wrist. Now, during the onslaught, Lozito suffered a number of slash wounds to the head, hands, and arms, typical defensive wounds suffered by stabbing victims. Now let's take a look at the lessons that we can take away from Lozito's actions on that train that day. First of all, Lozito was already aware of the suspicious nature of Gelman. He was quoted as saying, "You could tell this guy was shady. I had my eye on him." Lozito is basically an untrained fighter, although he describes himself as an MMA buff who watches the UFC on television. Because he was already aware, Lozito reacted to the threat immediately. He crashed into Gelman as the guy was lunging towards him. Then he kicked or swept the attacker's leg out from under him. Lozito said, "I wouldn't win any style points for taking him down, but it did the job." Now, when I say he crashed into him, it's because of his bulk. He's 6'2" and 270 pounds. That undoubtedly helped negate the charge from Gelman. Lozito said he only had one thing on his mind: take the bad guy down and control his wrist. A good clue to Lozito's commitment is that he said to Gelman during the attack, "You better hope that I die because I'm going to come to kill you." Something that is also typical of a knife attack is that Lozito continued to fight despite being severely slashed. He said he was unaware of his injuries until after the event when blood was pouring out of his wounds. When interviewed later, Lozito said, "I'm glad he picked me. There were a lot of women and children on the train who couldn't defend themselves. He picked me and instinct kicked in." Lozito had something to live for. After the whole incident was done and the cops were there grabbing Gelman, a good Samaritan came forward and put pressure on Lozito's wounds. He said to the guy, "I told him, you got to get me out of here. I can't die on this train. I have a wife and 2 kids." Lozito's actions and his story is a great example of the successful self-defense mindset. Kudos to Joseph Lozito for modeling the way of a successful defender. If you'd like more on the story, go to the blog at the TSG website that is linked to in the description below.